Found out about family's secret trip without me on my birthday. Just tell him we're sick, he's dumb enough to buy it, Mom said, laughing. A week later she was crying at my door. Funny thing is, when the first signs showed up, I didn't even catch them. My birthday was coming up, not a huge milestone, just another mid-20s marker that I figured we'd celebrate with a quiet dinner, maybe a cake. I wasn't expecting fireworks. I wasn't expecting much of anything, to be honest. Growing up, I had gotten used to being overlooked. I wasn't the rebel. I wasn't the prodigy. I was just there, background noise to the star performances of my older brother Eric and my younger sister Lindsay. Eric had the charm, Lindsay had the grades. I had, well, a knack for being invisible. Still, there was a flicker of hope. My mom, Karen, had texted me 2 weeks before saying, "Don't plan anything for your birthday. We have something special in mind." I should have known better. I should have remembered that in my family, special often meant for someone else. The day before my birthday, the group chat blew up. First Eric, then Lindsay, and finally my mom, all claiming they were feeling super sick. Flu season, they said. Fever, body aches, the whole 9 yards. "We're so sorry," Mom texted. "We just don't want you to get sick too. We'll make it up to you soon." I believed them. Of course I did. I mean, who would lie about being sick just to skip my birthday? I spent the evening alone. A frozen pizza, a rerun of some mindless sitcom, and the quiet sting of another year gone by unnoticed. Still, I shrugged it off. Maybe next weekend, I thought. Maybe they'd reschedule. Maybe this was just bad luck. Maybe. The next few days dragged by, slow and gray. I worked my shifts at the warehouse, kept my head down, tried not to dwell on how quiet everything had gotten. No calls. No texts. Not even one of those "sorry again" messages you send when you actually feel bad about something. It wasn't until Thursday that things started to crack. I was sitting in my car during my lunch break, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, when I noticed something strange. It was Eric's fiancée, Jenna. She wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed when it came to social media privacy. She had posted a story, a quick boomerang of a champagne glass clinking against a marble countertop, tagged at a luxury beach resort 2 states over. At first, it didn't register. I just watched it on loop, numb from exhaustion. But then I saw the corner of the frame, a familiar laugh, the back of a head that looked a lot like my mom's. A second later, another tag popped up. "Family getaway." My stomach twisted. I told myself it had to be old. Maybe from last year. Maybe they just reposted something. I clung to that illusion like a lifeboat. But as I clicked through Jenna's other posts, my heart started to pound faster. A group picture at the airport, timestamped from Monday. Poolside margaritas, Tuesday. A sunset dinner complete with a cake that said, "Family forever," Wednesday. I stared at my phone until the screen went black. For a moment, I just sat there, feeling like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. Because surely they wouldn't have gone on a trip, on my birthday week, without telling me. Not after all the years I spent bending over backward to be there for them. Not after every late-night call when Eric needed money. Not after every weekend spent helping Lindsay move apartments or fix her car. Not after all the grocery runs, the bill payments, the patience. Not after everything. The worst part was still to come. That evening, as I was tossing leftovers into the microwave, my phone buzzed again. An unfamiliar number. A voicemail. Weird. I played it without thinking, and instantly my knees went weak. It was my mom's voice, clear as day. Laughing. Laughing hard, like she had just told the funniest joke in the world. "Just tell him we're sick," she said between giggles. "He's dumb enough to buy it." Another burst of laughter, from what sounded like Lindsay. "Yeah, he'll just sit there waiting for us like a little puppy," Lindsay added, mocking. "Poor Danny," my mom said, putting on a baby voice. "All alone on his birthday. Boo-hoo." I stood frozen, the microwave beeping in the background, my dinner forgotten. I replayed the voicemail. Once. Twice. 3 times. Each word twisted deeper, scraping out pieces of trust that had been clinging on, stubborn and stupid. They weren't just lying to me. They were laughing at me. They thought I was a joke. A slow, acidic burn began rising from my gut, flooding every vein in my body. At that moment, something inside me snapped, not with a loud bang, but with a quiet, final click. The part of me that had always made excuses for them. The part that thought, maybe next time they'll treat me better. It all crumbled into dust. And I realized I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. I was going to make them regret ever thinking I was that dumb. The first thing I did was block them. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't impulsive. It was clean. Mechanical. Mom, Eric, Lindsay, one by one, I removed them from my phone. Blocked their numbers, blocked their social media accounts, even blocked Jenna, who was too clueless to realize she had been the one to tip me off. But that was just the beginning. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the voicemails still fresh in my mind, and made a list. An actual list, on a crumpled notepad from a takeout restaurant. Shared accounts, Netflix, Spotify, the Amazon Prime account they loved leeching off of. All under my name. All paid for by me. I smiled, cold and slow, as I started logging in and changing passwords. Netflix first. New password, random letters and numbers they'd never guess. Spotify next, logged every device out with one click. Amazon? Oh, I went a step further there. I cancelled the family account entirely. I could almost feel the moment they realized it. Maybe they were lying on some beach somewhere, trying to watch a movie after dinner, only to get kicked out mid-scene. Maybe they tried pulling up a playlist and got hit with the dreaded login error. Maybe Lindsay tried to order some overpriced moisturizer with 2 days shipping, and found herself having to pay full price like a commoner. It wasn't loud revenge. No screaming, no accusations. Just silence. Just emptiness. And it wasn't just the digital world I reclaimed. There was the shared emergency fund, a joint bank account I had set up with my mom 2 years ago, back when she cried over the phone about needing a safety net. Guess who was the only one depositing into it? I closed the account. Transferred every penny into my own savings. Left nothing but dust. I didn't send a warning. I didn't leave a note. I just vanished. By the third day, I started hearing about the fallout through whispers. It wasn't from them, of course. It was from my Aunt Lisa, my mom's sister, who had always been the black sheep herself, and who didn't exactly love Karen's little clique. Lisa called me that afternoon, laughing so hard she could barely get the words out. "Danny, honey, what did you do?" Apparently my parents had come back from their trip to a full-blown disaster. Eric was raging about being locked out of Netflix during his mental recharge nights. Lindsay was sobbing about losing all her playlists. And my mom, my dear, clever mom, had started calling around to family and friends, trying to spin some sob story about how I had turned on them. For no reason. Only it wasn't working. Because I had already gotten to them first. Before I blocked the family, I sent a single group text to the aunts, uncles, cousins, all the people my parents loved to impress but who were always kept just far enough away to not see the cracks. In that text, I attached a copy of the voicemail. "Since I won't be seeing most of you for a while, just thought you deserved the real story. Happy New Year." Short. Simple. Devastating. The calls started coming in almost immediately, not to me, but to them. Extended family asking uncomfortable questions. Old friends pulling away. The public mask they wore, that image of the perfect close family, was cracking right before their eyes. And the best part? I didn't have to say a single word. It was exactly 1 week after my birthday when the knock came. Not a text. Not a call. Not even a warning. Just a sharp, frantic pounding on my apartment door, loud enough to startle me out of the half-sleep I'd been dozing in. I didn't move right away. I knew who it was. I just leaned back against the couch and listened. Another round of knocking, harder this time. Then a muffled voice. "Danny, please! It's Mom! Please open the door, honey!" The sound of her voice used to make me feel safe, when I was little. Now it just made my skin crawl. I stood up slowly, walked to the door, and stared through the peephole. There she was. Karen. Her hair messy, her makeup smudged, her face blotchy from crying. She looked smaller somehow, shrunken in on herself. I unlocked the door, but didn't open it all the way. Just enough for her to see my face, calm, unreadable. She gasped when she saw me. "Oh, thank God!" she cried, trying to push the door open wider. I didn't move. "Danny, sweetheart, please." I raised one hand, palm out. She froze. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother unsure of herself. Not angry. Not smug. Just scared. "Good. Talk," I said quietly. "But don't lie. I already know everything." Her lips trembled. For a second, I thought she was going to start with excuses. But then she just sagged against the doorframe like a puppet with cut strings. "We messed up," she whispered. "We didn't think it would hurt you this much. It was supposed to be a fun trip, just us. Eric's engagement party got moved, and Lindsay got time off, and we didn't think you'd mind." I stared at her. "So you lied?" I said flatly. "You laughed about it. You called me dumb. You mocked me for trusting you." Her face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "It was stupid," she sobbed. "It was stupid and cruel, and Danny, please. We can fix this. Your family. We love you." I felt nothing. No surge of relief. No burning desire to scream. No urge to hug her and forgive her. Just a hollow, cold satisfaction. Watching her squirm, watching her break down, knowing she finally had to look at what she had done, it was better than any shouting match could ever have been. I waited until her sobs quieted into hiccuping gasps. Then, without raising my voice, I said, "Family doesn't treat each other like jokes. Family doesn't kick the dog and expect it to come wagging its tail again. You didn't just hurt me. You showed me exactly what I am to you. A punchline." She shook her head frantically. No, Danny, it's not like that." I leaned in just slightly, so she would have no choice but to see how calm I was. "You're right, Mom," I said. "It's not like that anymore. Because I'm not part of this family now. Not yours." Her face crumpled again, but I wasn't done. "If you want forgiveness, it comes with terms," I said, voice low and even. "You tell every friend, every relative exactly what you did. You own it. Publicly. No spin. No lies. You do that, maybe I'll answer your calls again someday." I stepped back and started closing the door. "But until then?" I said as she whimpered one last, desperate, "Danny, please. You're just another stranger who taught me a very expensive lesson." Click. The lock slid home. And I walked away without looking back. When the door clicked shut behind her, I stood there for a while. Not moving. Not thinking. Just breathing. It wasn't triumph I felt. Not really. It was something heavier. Like standing in the middle of a battlefield after the smoke clears, surrounded by broken pieces you know you'll never put back together. I didn't regret it. Not for a second. But as I turned and walked back through my apartment, the quiet felt thicker than usual. Heavier. Deeper. I sat down on the couch and stared at my phone, half expecting it to light up again. More calls. More desperate texts. Some last-ditch attempt to pull me back in. But there was nothing. Just the silence I had carved out for myself. And for the first time in my life. It didn't scare me. It felt good. Raw. Honest. No false birthdays. No fake family dinners where every laugh at the table felt like a test I was failing. No more pretending that if I just worked harder, gave more, swallowed my pride a little deeper, they would finally let me belong. The realization hit me like a slow wave. I was never going to be their golden child. I was never going to be enough for them. But maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to be. Maybe enough was something I could be for myself. That night, I poured myself a glass of cheap whiskey from the back of the cupboard, sat by the window, and let the weight of everything settle. The memories still stung. The voicemail still echoed in my head sometimes, like a bad radio signal I couldn't quite shut off. The look on my mom's face, that desperate, broken expression, replayed itself every time I blinked. But underneath all that pain, there was something growing. Something new. Something solid. Freedom. Not the kind that comes with moving out or getting your own paycheck. The kind that comes from finally knowing the truth, and refusing to live a second longer under someone else's illusion. I didn't need them to validate me. I didn't need them to love me the way I had spent my whole childhood hoping they would. I just needed to live. On my terms. No more games. No more crumbs. No more begging for scraps at a table where I was never welcome. And in the strange, heavy silence of my apartment, I realized, for the first time in my life, I was free. The next morning, I woke up early. No alarms. No urgent texts from my mother demanding something. Just sunlight filtering through the curtains and the steady beat of my own breathing. It felt strange, waking up without the weight of them already hanging over me. For a second, I didn't know what to do. So I started small. I cleaned my apartment, not because someone was coming over, not because I had to impress anyone, just because it was mine, and it deserved better than the half-lived mess I'd let it become. I threw out old junk I had been hanging on to for no reason, clothes that didn't fit, gifts I never liked, little scraps of a life lived trying to please people who never cared. The garbage bags piled up quickly. It wasn't just clutter leaving. It was years of guilt. Years of feeling like I owed them something just for existing. Each bag I hauled to the dumpster made me feel a little lighter. Then I called the landlord. I upgraded my apartment. Nothing crazy, just moved to a corner unit with more windows and a view that didn't look directly into someone else's wall. A little more sunlight. A little more space. A little more me. The old me would have hesitated. Would have thought, better save the money in case Mom needs help with bills again. But that voice was gone now. She wasn't my responsibility anymore. None of them were. And maybe the biggest step was the one nobody else could see. I deleted the old family group chat. Not just muted. Deleted. Gone. Like a splinter pulled from under the skin, painful, but clean. The more I peeled their fingers off my life, the more I realized how tight they'd been gripping me without me even noticing. How many choices I had made with them whispering in the back of my mind. What would they think? What would they say? Would they be proud? Now the only question that mattered was, would I be proud of myself? That was a new kind of pressure. But it was mine. And for the first time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt like possibility. It was almost 2 weeks after the door incident when the next move came. I was starting to think they had finally given up, accepted that I wasn't going to crawl back, that the old patterns were broken for good. And honestly, I was starting to feel something close to peace. Then the phone rang. It wasn't my mom. It wasn't Eric. It wasn't Lindsay. It was my aunt, Aunt Lisa, the same one who had laughed with me when the fallout first started. The one I thought was safe. "Hey, Danny," she said, her voice too bright, too careful. "How have you been, sweetheart?" Immediately, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. There was something off. Too much sugar in her voice. "I'm good," I said slowly. "Busy." She hesitated, then dove right in. "Listen, your mom's been having a really hard time. She's not eating, she's not sleeping, she's heartbroken, Danny." I said nothing. Just let her talk. "She knows she messed up," Lisa continued. "She's just scared. She doesn't know how to fix it. She talks about you all the time, about how much she misses you." I stared out the window as she spoke, feeling strangely detached. Almost like I was watching someone else's life from far away. There it was, the guilt card. The same card they always played when the tantrums didn't work. The same card that used to make me drop everything and come running. Not this time. "She's your mother, Danny," Lisa said gently. "Don't you think she deserves another chance?" I leaned back in my chair, feeling the silence stretch between us. When I finally spoke, my voice was calm. Steady. "Did she tell you what she said about me?" I asked. Did she play you the voicemail? There was a pause on the other end. A long one. No, Lisa admitted quietly. I smiled to myself, small and bitter. Of course she hadn't. Then she hasn't even started to tell the truth, I said. And until she does, there's no chance. Lisa started to protest, but I cut her off, still calm, still cold. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I'm done. There's a difference. Another silence. Thicker this time. Heavy with all the things she wasn't saying. Finally, Lisa sighed. I had to try, she said. I know, I replied. And then, gently, almost kindly, I hung up. I stood there for a moment, staring at the phone in my hand. No rush of guilt. No second thoughts. Just the quiet, certain knowledge that I had done the right thing. Because people like them didn't change because you forgave them. They changed, if they ever did, because you walked away and never came back. It didn't take long before they tried again, but this time, they went public. My cousin Melissa tagged me in a family Facebook post. A group picture, my mom, Eric, Lindsay, and a few others. All smiles. The caption read, "Family is everything. Even when some people forget that." The message was clear. Passive-aggressive. Targeted. It was bait. A trap. They wanted me to lash out. To defend myself. To make a scene so they could point and say, "See? Look how dramatic he is." I stared at the post for a long moment, feeling nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a quiet certainty. So I didn't comment. Didn't react. Instead, I clicked remove tag. Blocked Melissa. And posted nothing of my own, except for a single quote on my own page. Sometimes, walking away is the loudest thing you can do. No names. No drama. Just truth. And in doing nothing, I said everything. Days passed. Then weeks. No more calls. No more messages. Just silence. Real silence. Not the heavy, guilty kind I used to live with. Not the anxious quiet before the next demand. This silence was clean. Free. I didn't miss them. I didn't check their pages. I didn't wonder if they missed me. I just lived. Finally.